In the past few books of this epic, we've gone over just how similar gods and humans can be in the Iliad. Whether in their emotions, or their motivations, or their standards of virtue and good behavior, they can be very similar. But they are still very different from humans in other ways, and the mortals in the Iliad forget this at their peril. Hello and welcome back. In this video series, we're going to be continuing to read the great books of Western civilization, starting with the Iliad. This is Book 5 from the Robert Fagles translation. As always, I'll begin with a summary of the major plot points and then go into analysis and commentary. In the middle of the day's battle, the goddess Athena visits Greek captain Diomedes and gives him strength and fury to aid him in his battle against the Trojans. She then convinces Ares, the god of war, who's fighting for the Trojans, to sit outside the battle with her, to let the mortals fight it out for themselves. Diomedes begins his rampage. He is shot in the shoulder by Pandarus, one of the Trojan archers, but is quickly healed of this by Athena, and then given the ability to see the normally invisible gods and goddesses as they roam about the battlefield. However, Athena commands him to attack none of the gods or goddesses except for Aphrodite. Diomedes then continues to fight in the battle, at the head of the Greek ranks, slaying many Trojans and winning glory, until he meets Aeneas, the son of Aphrodite. Diomedes wounds Aeneas very seriously, and is about to finish him off, when the goddess herself appears to save her son. Remembering his instructions from Athena, Diomedes turns his attention to her instead, and stabs her through the wrist with his spear. Racked with pain, she flees to Olympus as Diomedes taunts her to her back, and then the god Apollo appears instead to save Aeneas. Diomedes attacks Apollo repeatedly, ignoring Athena's warning. Apollo wards off the man's attacks 3 times without being hurt, and finally loses patience, shouting at him in a terrifying voice, warning him to stop. In doing so, he echoes the concerns of the other gods who see Diomedes striving against them. Diomedes pulls back out of range and allows Apollo to save the fallen Trojan. Apollo then returns to Olympus and tells Ares to get back into the battle in order to stop Diomedes. Ares rallies the Trojans to charge against the Greeks, with Hector and Sarpedon, the son of Zeus, at their head. Diomedes shrinks back from the battle entirely, knowing that he's not supposed to attack Ares. Many Greeks lose their lives, and then Hera loses patience, and asks Zeus for permission to take Ares out of play somehow. Zeus agrees and recommends that she send Athena. Hera and Athena then go down together to the battlefield in order to rally the Greeks against the Trojans. Athena goes straight to Diomedes and tells him to attack Ares directly, to ignore her previous command, and assures him that he will not be punished for doing so. Diomedes takes Ares unawares and spears him through the abdomen, forcing the god to retreat to Olympus, where his wounds are healed, and he is scolded by Zeus. "Think, Diomedes, shrink back now. Enough of this madness, striving with the gods. We are not of the same breed, we never will be, the deathless gods and men who walk the earth." That is the point of this whole book. On a basic story level, all that's happening is the battle is turning first in favor of the Trojans, then in favor of the Greeks, then back to the Trojans, then back to the Greeks, based on which gods are helping them out, and the success that they have in getting the other gods to stay out of it. But there's a lot more going on beneath the surface. Diomedes, by the way, is a character who will keep coming back in later chapters, so if you haven't heard of him before, don't worry, you'll hear of him again. So this Greek captain, Diomedes, is given strength and fury by Athena to go and punish the Trojans. All that see him gawk and wonder if it's a god that's coming after them rather than a human being, even if they recognize the man himself. He looks like Tydeus' son to me, and still, I could never swear that he's not a god. If he's the man I think he is, he rages so with a god beside him. I thought I'd sent him down to the house of death. So it is some god rampaging. With each defeat of a mortal soldier, Diomedes gains glory, as any other person would. But then, after he defeats Aeneas and subsequently wounds Aphrodite, I believe he becomes arrogant. After all, he just wounded a god, right? How many people have done that? So when Apollo then appears, he ignores Athena's orders. Maybe he even thinks that there wouldn't be any consequence. Nothing happened when he hurt Aphrodite. When he attacks Apollo, he's no longer trying to win glory as a man. He's trying to win glory like a god. He's trying to be something that he's not. And the words that Apollo uses to tell him off reflect this. Enough of this madness. Striving with the gods, we are not of the same breed, we never will be. He's trying to be like one of them. He might look like one of them to the other mortals. They might fear him like one of them. He might even fight as well as one of them sometimes. But he isn't one of them. He lacks their immortality. He lacks their true power. And so the only possible result is a shorter life. All the other gods that see him attack Aphrodite and then Apollo say to each other, "Doesn't the son of Tydeus know the man who fights the gods does not live long?" By acting outside of his instructions, by attacking Apollo to try to win glory from his defeat, he's really risking his life, even more so than any of the other warriors are. Talk about flying too close to the sun. The next question to answer is why Diomedes was permitted to attack Aphrodite, and later Ares, but he wasn't allowed to attack Apollo. I'm not sure, to be honest, but I have a theory. Earlier we spoke about how Helen and Achilles, both godlike, were unstoppable in their own sphere. Helen in beauty, grace, charm, and influence, Achilles on the battlefield. They would not be unstoppable if they switched places. Achilles would not be as good at charming and influencing others by his beauty as Helen is, and likewise, she would not be as good at killing people as Achilles is. If this is true for those who are godlike, then I think it can be true for those who are gods as well. Athena, goddess of battle strategy, Ares, the god of war, and Apollo, the god of archers and archery. They all are quite at home on the battlefield. Aphrodite, however, is the goddess of love. Her sphere is much more like that of Helen. Zeus tells her as much when she returns from being hurt. "Fighting is not for you, my child, the works of war. See to the works of marriage, the slow fires of longing. Athena and blazing Ares will deal with all the bloodshed." She's trying to be excellent outside of her sphere. And this is where my theory connects with the rest of the chapter. Aphrodite's injury and Diomedes' scolding by Apollo prove the same point. If you try to be something that you're not only will you fail, it could destroy you. But what about Ares? Why wasn't Diomedes punished for attacking him? Well, because it was Athena's idea. Diomedes acted on his own against Apollo, not only trying to win glory for himself, like he had been with the other human opponents, but trying to win glory as a god and prove himself superior over one of them. And even Athena couldn't send Diomedes against Ares until Hera got permission for it from Zeus. And why? Because unlike Aphrodite, Ares has every right to be on that battlefield. He's the god of war. That is his element. And he is fulfilling his natural born role. But this is Athena's element too, and she has every right to strive against him. As Zeus says to Hera, "Leap to it then. Launch Athena against Ares. She's the one, his match." To put Diomedes in perspective though, he's a strong man, don't get me wrong. Powerful warrior, great captain of the Greeks. However, he thought that he was ascending to godhood just because he had speared Aphrodite through the wrist. As mortals go, he's not even the one that comes closest to godhood in terms of his battle prowess. I'm talking about Achilles. And while we haven't seen Achilles in battle yet, we haven't seen what he can do, his great strength and power is alluded to here in this chapter. When Hera comes back down to the battlefield, she says, "As long as brilliant Achilles stalked the front, no Trojan would ever venture beyond the darting gates. They were so afraid of the man's tremendous spear." So even by mortal standards, Diomedes was not even close to being godlike. The whole army didn't go and hide behind the walls of Troy just because he was on the field. They were willing to fight him. And apparently when Achilles was on the field, they weren't. And even now, through inaction and without fighting the other gods, Achilles' wrath and Achilles' power is winning more glory, showing more power, and killing more people than Diomedes ever could. Thanks so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and join me next week for Book 6. If there was something especially interesting to you that you learned today, please comment below and let me know what it is. And of course, if you like what you see here and you want to know when I post new videos, please hit the subscribe button as well as the little bell icon, and you will be notified. See you next time.